I find that if I don't have a really clear target, then I can't hit it. So in recent years, I've made more clear, specific goals. So last year was my first year with a specific earnings goal and a specific traffic goal. And I found that having those both really spurred me on during some of those burnout periods or periods where I wanted to be a little lazy. I really was motivated to reach my goals for the year.
That was Michelle Palin, and this is episode number 180 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey there, it's Marley of the blog Namely Marley. This is the Chopped Podcast, and I am your host, and we're here to talk about all things food, blogging, and even food blogging. I'm so glad that you joined me here today because we're going to have a great conversation about food blogging. I'm just curious, do you ever feel like you're just not getting it? Well, one thing I have learned over the years of talking to so many food bloggers is there just isn't an it. There isn't one way to do it. There isn't just one way to success as a food blogger. I know that we feel like there is. I feel like, if there's some secret pill that we could take, or if there's some, somebody's got the secret out there that you can just discover and voila, magic will happen and your blog will be successful. In fact, what I have learned from talking to so many food bloggers is that there's actually so many different pathways to being a successful food blogger. So don't be discouraged if you haven't found your it just yet. Keep listening to stories just like you hear on this podcast. Then you can carve your own path based on the inspiration that you hear here. Like, you just get little nuggets from each individual food blogger and you think, ooh, I like the way she did that. Incorporate that into your plan. And then that's how you basically carve your own path. And honestly, I really love that about food blogging because it is like, it's like create your own plan to success, but it's a little hard at times because you are carving your own path and that's never an easy plan, but I don't know. I think it's, it leaves you the opportunity to discover what works best for you. So before we head into today's inspiring food blogger discussion, I want to give a big shout out to today's featured listener, and that is Mac at SGT, which I'm going to say is Mac at Sargent. Mac left a 5-star review on the Chopped Podcast on iTunes, and here's what Mac said. What a lovely way to learn from successful food bloggers about the behind the scenes of being a food blogger. I aspire to have such great knowledge to share one day. Great guests, lovely conversations. Thanks, Mac. I truly appreciate hearing from you, and I'm so glad that you found the podcast very helpful. These reviews are a lifeline for podcasters. It means so much to hear from you all. So keep them coming. And if you'd like to be a featured listener in a future episode of the Chopped Podcast, just head to iTunes and leave a review right now. So today's guest will leave you feeling so inspired because I'm talking with Michelle Palin of the site My Gluten-Free Kitchen. And of course, we're going to talk about Michelle's path to success and the things that she's done as a food blogger. But what I really loved talking to Michelle about was her goal setting. That's it, her goal setting. I just found that to be so inspiring. I know it does. You're probably thinking goal setting. What's the big deal about that? Well, I'm sure blogging is a business, right? And you're the boss, and that means, to be honest, it's not always easy to be the boss, right? Because that means you have to create the plan and you have to figure out what's going to be happening today. And you're basically making all this stuff up and, you don't know because you don't have the exact recipe. Like I said before, there's no secret to doing this all right. You're kind of figuring it out day by day. And that gets hard after a while. And what worked yesterday may not always work today, but at the same time, you got to have a plan. And that's kind of like business 101. You have to have a plan. And I think Ben Franklin is attributed to this quote, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's so powerful, and it was true, hundreds of years ago, and it's true today as well. But listen, I know some days are just plain hard. How do you make yourself do the things that you know you need to be doing to be successful? There's just so many things, and it can be overwhelming. Well, Michelle talks about the strategies she's used to help motivate herself, including setting goals. And then we talk about some of the steps she's used to help herself achieve those goals, including getting her family on board so that they were supportive of her goals as well. I thought that was so smart, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. I found it very inspiring. I think you will too. So let's get straight to it. Here's today's featured discussion with Michelle Palin. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Michelle Palin. She's of the site My Gluten-Free Kitchen, and she is on the show today. Hey Michelle, welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Hi Marley, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on the show today. And I'm really looking forward to our discussion about goals. But I have to tell you a little funny story before we get started. And that is when I was in high school, I had two friends, both with the name Michelle, but one of them spelled their name like you do, Mich, and the other one spelled her name Mach, and we called them Mish and Mash.
That's hilarious.
Isn't it funny? Still to this day, when I see Mash, I call her Mash. It just cracks me up.
That's funny. I've never heard of anyone with the name Mashelle, actually. So
I
that's
know.
really unique and fun.
It is very fun. Do you ever have a nickname that you've used, or Michelle is it?
No, yeah, just Michelle. I mean, my brother had some nicknames for me, but
Oh, I'm
those,
sure.
yeah,
They're maybe not all repeatable, right?
exactly.
Okay, on to food blogging. I love to talk to people about their food blogs, and I'm always inspired to hear people's stories about why they started their blog. So, can you tell your story about why you started your blog?
Yeah. I used to have a hobby blog years ago where I shared recipes that I'd perfected, just that I had been making for my family. The photos were terrible,
Mm,
but it didn't matter. I really was just had it up for friends and family to look at.
mm.
Basically, when I'd have some company over or I'd make a dish to bring to a church potluck. If people were asking me for the recipe afterward, I would just try to get that up there on the blog. And so, there was maybe 10, 20 people at most looking at that on a regular basis. But, it was just kind of something for fun. I loved sharing my recipes as I would work on them. And then in about 2009, 2010, I got really, really sick and I was ultimately diagnosed with celiac disease. And so I had to eliminate gluten from my life completely and basically start over with recipe development, especially in regards to baking. While a lot of cooking recipes can be adapted pretty easily, baking is kind of a starting over process. And so as I worked at perfecting my recipes, now gluten-free, and I would bring them to things when people started asking for those recipes, then I was like, okay, I've got this. And I want to go ahead and start a gluten-free blog. And people were asking me to do that so that I could share those recipes with them.
You must have been one of the first gluten-free food blogs out there, huh?
Um, there were several already out there, but like it definitely weren't as many as there are now. There's definitely a lot more now. I was just
Yeah.
kind of at the beginning of that explosion, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, like, it's just interesting to me that, you had already started, you obviously had a passion in cooking, and you
Mhm.
had already started this hobby blog. But then when your passion really struck you because you had this illness and you had this change in your lifestyle, it really, kind of, I don't know how to say this, but it really pushed you over the edge to really want to do this.
Exactly, exactly.
And
Because it
I
can be so overwhelming, when you're diagnosed with celiac or a gluten sensitivity or whatever. It just, really changes um, how
Yes.
you cook and can be overwhelming to people. And so I definitely wanted to be able to help people with that because I like being in the kitchen and I like working on recipes and making things taste good. And so that I can help some of those people who don't like being in there and figuring things out.
Yes. Yeah, I like, that's actually the role that we all should be following. It's one of the reasons I think I've talked to several people, and it seems like a lot of educators are, become food bloggers, because in the end, really, we are educating people. We're trying to help them go through steps that they haven't gone through themselves, right?
Exactly. And I actually did used to be a teacher. So that's funny
Ah,
that you say
that is
that.
good. I'll add you to my list.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so, I mean, what grade did you teach?
I taught kindergarten actually. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, but really love this. I don't see myself ever going back into the classroom. I enjoy teaching through my recipes. So
Yes. And so when you started your blog, I believe, some people, even when you started your first blog, it was a hobby. But this
yeah.
second one, My Gluten Free Kitchen, did you start that one with a hobby in mind, or did you really have more of like a professional, goal in mind?
I actually started my blog as a business from day one, which I know is a lot different than most bloggers. So because I had that hobby blog before, I actually had two hobby blogs. I didn't mention my other one. I also had a like a deals blog, kind of a
Yeah.
couponing blog. years ago. And so in doing that, I knew that I could make a good part-time income through blogging. And so I felt like when I launched this gluten-free blog, the timing worked out really well for me. My kids were, my youngest was just starting kindergarten. And so I was going to have a little bit more time. It's kind of at that time, I think, where most moms are starting to think about, okay, do I want to go back into the workforce? What do I want to do? And I thought, I think this would be perfect for me. I can work from home. I can work around my kids. I can work around my health issues. I have chronic migraines and I have 4 autoimmune diseases. And so those make it really hard for me to hold down a job outside of the house. And so in looking at my blog, I thought, I could start this and this could be my business. I can work around everything. So I actually did. I actually took a couple classes before I even launched my blog. I took one on online classes. I took one on WordPress so that I could just understand how WordPress worked, basically learn enough to know what things I didn't want to mess with, what would break my blog. And that was really good at just helping me understand, because my previous blogs, my hobby blogs, had just been on Blogger. And so, or Blogspot, however you want to say that. And so it helped me understand that. And I also took one on running your own business. And so through that, I learned things about how to set up an LLC in my state, and just the importance of having your own business bank account and bookkeeping basics and things like that. And so I did all of that before I even had put up my first blog post on my gluten-free kitchen. And so on day one, I already had my LLC application in. And before I made my first money, I had my bank account going. And so I think treating that like a business from day one, while unique, really helped set me up for, the success I've had over the years, and being able to work it into being a steady source of income and a steady job for me.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm personally having to go through a bunch of old content from when my site was more of a hobby. And just, I had an SEO consult last year, and I just had all this unrelated content that I've had to deal with. So in some ways, to know what you're going to do when you get started, I'm kind of jealous, I'll be honest. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely helped. But, having had a couple hobby blogs before that, I think helped a lot, for me to realize just the value of having a niche and staying on topic. And I think too, when I started blogging was pretty close to the end of Google Reader. Like that was only around for a little bit more after I started. And I kind of mark the end of Google Reader as being a real change in how people followed blogs. And I'm sure you've kind of seen this. It used to be that, you would follow a blog and you read every single blog post from that blogger as it came out. And I think as Google Reader went away, and with the real rise of Pinterest, especially, there's not as much of that following a blog from blog post to blog post to blog post. I mean, a majority, I know, of my traffic, and from most bloggers I've talked to, the majority of their traffic is first-time visitors every day.
And I never even thought about that. It's a big switch since then.
It really was. And so for me, I was on kind of that early side of that switch. And so I never blogged, kind of chronologically like that, as far as telling a story from one post to another, never was updating people on my week, things like that. It was really kind of more recipe focused, which I think a lot more people are switching to now.
Yes.
That is a big change for those of you that have been in the blogging world for longer. That's a huge mental shift.
It is. And it's just, I'm sitting here laughing at myself, because it does seem like it takes somebody to say something like that to help me understand it. Because I think I've been sitting here lamenting, like, why do I have to take out, why does a post only have to be about the recipe? Why can't there be some personal stories in there? And then you saying that helped me kind of get it. Oh, I see. People are not following us as a blogger or the story we have behind the blog. It's really more about the recipe. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it really is. They're coming to get the recipe and the information about the recipe, and
they're gone.
Yeah, and then they're gone usually. So, one thing I've noticed is I do, as I've realized that, is I do a lot more repeating. I don't assume that they know my tips about how to measure flour, or about the importance of xanthan gum and substitutions for it. I don't assume that they saw my previous posts where I've mentioned that. So sometimes I feel like a broken record, but I have to keep in mind that audience, that it's new, So.
Right. So how would you describe your blogging journey? Would you describe it as like one constant steady stream of success, or have you had some ups and downs as you've gone along?
I think it's been continued growth. I mean, I think it was definitely slow growing at the beginning. But yeah, it's generally just grown, over the years. And I've been able to, move it from being a slow start, slow trickle of income into being a more steady job that I can see sticking with definitely for a number of years again. And
Yeah. What I'm just curious, in the beginning when things were a little slow, did you ever have to kind of talk yourself through those times, or what are some things that you did to help you stay motivated?
I think we'll be talking about goals today, but I think
Yeah.
I've always had long-term goals for my blog right from the
Mm.
beginning. And while my yearly goals can change each year as to how what I'm focusing on that particular year, my long-term goals, have always been there. And so I think keeping those in mind has been good. I think for me, knowing that blogging is not an overnight. That you're not an overnight success. I mean, there's a few people who've been overnight successes, it seems like, but for
Mhm.
the most part, it's really a slow and steady journey. And so I knew that it's not like my first year I was going to make, a ton of money. I actually pulled out, I keep a lot of records. I actually pulled out my records last night, and I made $668 my first full year of blogging. And I was so happy with that though,
Yes.
because my goal that first year was that I could afford to pay a couple times to have someone come and do a deep clean on my house, and
Ah,
that I could afford to go out for hot chocolate with my friends like every couple weeks.
hey, well,
And
that accomplished
so
that, right?
I did. And so
Yes.
I met that goal, and so that was exciting. That kept me going.
Yes. And it's a great segue into this discussion about goals, because you and I are both in a private Facebook group together, and you mentioned about your goals, and I was so inspired about it. So I want to read what you said, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Last year, I had a monthly website traffic goal and a goal for my earnings for the year. It worked well for me, and I achieved both. This year, I was thinking of doing the same, but then adding a couple of specific goals for social media numbers so that I can make a more concentrated effort on growing those this year. I loved that so much. And in fact, that post got a lot of great response. I think it, really resonated with people. Can you
Mhm.
talk about, your goals and what, has inspired you to create and track them?
Yeah. I think first off, it's important, as I alluded to a minute ago, just to have long term goals for your business. And I know other bloggers who have long term goals like having their own cooking show someday, or having their own line of products, or publishing several cookbooks. So I think depending on what your long term goal is, then you can come up with yearly goals that are going to help you move toward that long term goal. So for me, my long term goals for my business don't look like any of those things I just mentioned. I've always wanted to help my family be in a position where we're completely debt free, even free of our mortgage by the time we're empty nesters. And we're actually going to be empty nesters in 5 years. So
Wow.
I have a countdown app on my phone. I'm totally looking forward to this
Oh
day.
my. I love that.
And
That's great.
yeah, and so that's one of my goals, is to help us be, completely out of debt so that we are free to do some of the things that we really are looking forward to doing at that stage. I have a long-term goal of being able to pay for 50% of my kids' college tuition so that they don't come out of school with quite so much
Yes.
debt that they're under. We want them to have to be invested in it a bit, but not be drowning under the weight of it. And then I have goals related to just giving more to charities and needs that we're aware of in our community and in our church. And I've always had a goal of employing other stay-at-home moms. And so when I'm looking at my goals each year, it's through the lens of, okay, what can I accomplish this year that's going to help me stay on track for these long-term goals?
Oh, I just love that so much. And I also love the fact that you're embracing the concept of becoming an empty nester, because it must mean that you like your husband and you're ready to spend time
Oh,
with
I
him.
do. I do. I really do. He's a gem, and we're we're looking at hopefully taking some short-term assignments with his work once we're empty nesters, where we could just live in different parts of the U.S.
I love that.
And just explore like on the weekends, and just get to see different places, and then maybe after a few years of that, we could decide where we want to settle down.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I actually teased my daughter that when she went off to college, I was going to sell everything and get an RV and just drive around.
we've talked about that as well. It might look like that. We aren't sure.
You would have one with a big kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So some years with those yearly goals, I've had some really general goals, and I find that if I don't have a really clear target, then I can't hit it. So in recent years, I've made more clear, specific goals. So last year was my first year with a specific earnings goal and a specific traffic goal, and I found that having those both really spurred me on during some of those burnout periods or periods where I wanted to be a little lazy. I really was motivated to reach my goals for the year. And so my advice for people with goals is for them to be specific, attainable, measurable, and exciting. And so my acronym for that, I had to come up with one, is SAME. And so which it makes it easy to remember every year because I'm following the same formula: specific, attainable, measurable, and exciting.
Okay, I've got that down.
Specific, attainable, measurable, and exciting.
I love that.
And I'm sure people can understand each of those. I mean, specific, attainable, measurable, but I wanted to elaborate on the exciting one. That's one I haven't really seen when a lot of people describe goals. And for me personally, I think that there really needs to be something that excites you about one or more of your goals. For me, I get excited about how I'm going to use the money that I earn this year, both in the short term and for my long-term goals. So like early on, like I was saying, my goals were things like getting someone to help clean my house or getting to go have hot cocoa. And that excited me because for years we were on, a really tight budget, and I had a monthly budget of $5 a month for spending money. And so that meant that I could go out to hot cocoa one time with a friend. And so I was excited when I started making money that I would be able to go do that type of thing more. And so I think having something that's, exciting, that helps to spur you on. So, I'm looking at my long-term things, like putting money away for my kids' tuition and blessing people throughout the year. And then I'm just trying to also focus on certain things that are exciting about it for this year. So when I came up with my income goal for this year, I had in mind what I was going to do with that money. So I'm paying off my kitchen remodel. We did a big kitchen remodel last year. I got basically my dream kitchen with double ovens that I love.
Wow.
And so, I'm paying that off. I have a goal to buy my husband a truck this year. And then this year is my husband and my 20th anniversary. And so we are going to take a big trip for that. We do a big trip every 5 years on the big anniversary. And so we are planning about a week away this summer. And so when you're, getting into those doldrums of blogging, those down parts, those periods of burnout or whatever, I think having an element of your goals that is something exciting that you're looking forward to can just really help you press on through those. And so for me to keep in mind, hey, here's why I'm doing this. And I have these goals written out where I can see them and I can be like, how much do I love that kitchen? I love it. Okay, push on, work today. Or how much am I looking forward to that 20th anniversary getaway with my husband? Yes, I am. Do this, Michelle. Just get that post up, get that Instagram post up, respond to those 10 emails that are weighing you down. And I think those just can really help me, to keep going. And I guess for those listening, I would just say, if your goal is to just pay all your bills this year, I would challenge you to just add one more thing in there, big or small, that's going to help you be excited, whether it be a monthly manicure. I mean, if you're just squeaking by, add in a monthly manicure in there. If that's going to just be woo, that would be really fun, or maybe it's a bigger goal, like a girls trip or a getaway with your spouse or a family trip. But adding in something exciting, I think helps keep you motivated.
Well, it sounds to me like it also transforms it from just a goal to something that it's like a celebration too.
Oh, totally.
I'm going to do this. And then if I hit that goal, I'm going to, this reward it's basically, like you say, the manicure, the pedicure is like a celebration.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And you can see that reward for your hard work.
Yes, because I do think I think we spend, food blogging is really hard and really complicated. Mm-hmm. And we can spend a lot of time feeling sorry for ourselves and how hard and how complicated it is. But I love the transformation of the mindset that goes along with what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And I even have like a stretch goal. If I hit my stretch goal this year, income wise, of hitting $100,000, then we're going to go to Disney World. And so that would be
Ah.
our whole family getting to celebrate, that we hit that I hit that goal. And I think when my kids can see the benefit of what I'm doing, it helps them be more on board as well.
I was just going to ask you, do you share that stretch goal with your family so that they're kind of rooting for you too?
Yes, yeah, they definitely they know, what I'm working towards. Early on, I think my third year of blogging, one of my income goals for that year was to be able to buy my husband season tickets to our local college, Boise State football
Yeah.
team. And that was huge at even getting my husband on board. I mean, he's always been supportive of me, but I think when he got to see the fruit of it was something really fun for him that helped as well. And so I definitely try to find ways of helping them see the benefits, besides obviously all the food they get to eat. I mean, they like that
Yes. I mean,
benefit.
come on.
I have two teenage boys. And so, yeah, there's never a shortage of people willing to eat everything I'm making for the blog.
What a relief that is, huh?
Yeah, I know. I hear people talking about, what do you do with all your food? And I'm thinking,
Never a
wow,
problem.
I don't actually ever have leftover food here. My boys are bottomless pits right now. So
I kind of have that just because my husband has the metabolism of a horse. He can just eat and eat and he gets
yes.
skinny. I look at food and gain weight. So
Yeah, I know, right? Me too.
so it's nice to have people around that can actually eat the food.
Yes,
I want to
definitely.
clarify when I just said I actually do eat all the food that's on my site. I just don't eat all of
Yeah.
it.
Right. Oh, yes. No,
Yeah.
exactly. I understand that. Same
Yeah,
thing as
exactly.
me.
So I love how you've kind of you've basically made celebration a part of your goal setting. But I'm
Mhm.
curious though, like, I love the idea of things being exciting. Eh, and having then even the stretch goal. I'm just curious how it is that you actually achieve those goals then. So it's like one thing to say, I'm going to get to X amount of page views a month.
Mhm.
But then what happens when you find yourself falling short? What do you do to try to fix that and change direction?
Right. So the first part of that is that when I'm making the goal, the A was attainable. I make sure that it's an attainable goal. So I look back at my stats from the year before and I look at what my projected growth would be, where I think I would already be if I just maintained this year. And then I can decide there's some things that I'll just be like, okay, I'm okay with this maintaining. Maybe that's a certain social media channel, maybe that's traffic, whatever. And then other things where I'm like, you know what, I really want to work in this particular area. And so I'm going to, make that be a goal, but I still make sure it's attainable. I mean, I don't just suddenly go from, double my income, from year to year or
Right.
triple my traffic from year to year, because that's just going to cause undue stress and frustration when I'm not reaching that. So yeah, definitely making them realistic and attainable, is a big part of that. And then I track my goals just monthly, like old school on spreadsheets,
Yes.
where I print them off on paper and I track all my growth and see where I'm at. And that's where I can kind of evaluate and crunch the numbers and look, okay, what am I on track, goal wise with reaching this particular goal or that particular goal. And, so if I notice I'm not keeping up pace, then that's a catalyst for me to spend an extra few minutes, maybe to put up another social media post to drive traffic or engagement. So like last year, I wasn't trying to grow my social media channels at all. That wasn't one of my goals last year. I really was focused on optimizing my earnings from what I already had. So I didn't work on my social media. I just maintained it, but I wasn't really like working at growing them. And as a result, not shockingly, they didn't grow. And so
Wow.
like my Instagram like barely grew at all last year. And I counted last night and I did a whole 41 posts is all I did for the entire year last year. And so, that's not surprising that it didn't
No.
grow, but that was okay because that wasn't my goal last year.
Right.
But this year I do have in Instagram a goal of growing my Instagram following. I'm trying to grow my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Pinterest all a bit this year because those help me achieve my traffic goal, and they also help with achieving my earnings goal because as those grow, I can charge more for social posts, of course.
Right.
So this year I am focused on those, and so now with me having that goal with Instagram, then when I'm going to go sit on the couch and unwind at night, instead of just heading on out there now, I take a second and I airdrop a photo off of my computer onto my phone. And then while I go sit on the couch and we turn the TV on we have like 25 minutes of TV a night, then I can sit there on my phone and craft an Instagram post. And whereas last year, that's not something I did. And so those will help me, just that few minutes decision, keeping that goal in mind, help me, move towards it.
Yeah. And do you then track that on your spreadsheets as well? In other words, like that you only had 41 posts or how many posts the year before.
Yeah.
Will you track the number of posts that you're doing this year as well?
No, I don't usually. I just I was noticing, how I didn't grow last year, and I was curious. I was like, how much did I post last year, on Instagram? And I'm on track for way more already this year. I've been trying to, post like 3 or 4 a week, this year. So already, but, no, I pretty much, I check the monthly statistics for followers and for traffic and whatnot. So
yes, again, I want to reemphasize the mindset that I hear from you, because it's so easy, I think, to kind of get, like, oh, Instagram, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I think it just changed your mindset because you're going for the goal. So, okay, well, I'll just do the things. I'll just post that while I'm watching my show tonight, and it's no big deal. And I like that change in mindset. It sounds very inspiring.
Yeah, it definitely just helps for it to, I guess maybe not feel so much like work, like, hey, this is just 5 minutes to move towards my goal. I can do that.
Right. How often do you check your goals? Like I know that it sounds like you've got a variety of goals, both long-term and short-term. How often do you, remind yourself of those goals?
So I have this was my first year where I actually printed my goals off and I have them right by my desk.
Nice.
And, I have really liked that.
Yeah.
Again, it just motivates me. I feel like, and just keeps me excited for why I'm doing this and what I'm hoping to achieve this year. And, then the tracking is really mostly monthly. I check my traffic daily just to see if I'm kind of how the day is doing. I making sure my site's not down, or, if something is suddenly taking off, then, I kind of want to know where it's from and celebrate that, a little bit, that kind of thing. But I definitely don't obsess about, daily stats. I definitely look at it from a more of a monthly thing. And by having it all on paper right here by my desk, also, I have all, 6 years of blogging right here on piece of paper that I can reach at any time. I'm able to look at those and remind myself of trends, like, oh yeah, my traffic is down, in like May every year, like May, June, July, or my worst months every year. And so it's like, that's fine. It always is that way. And that's okay, and so I can not obsess about that stuff, too much.
Right. So when you see your numbers going down in May, you can just look and say, okay, I'm on track to where I was last year this time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I love this because I feel like in some ways, a lot of us are kind of, in our holes, kind of working, doing the things. And I've often thought that I miss the collaboration of working in a corporate environment, or, even just having a board of directors that keep you accountable. And so in some ways, it's like your monthly reports become your own accountability to yourself.
They really do. Yeah. And I have one friend who we check in pretty regularly and we'll update each other on our goals. So I guess it's kind of an informal mastermind.
Yes.
And that helps, because my husband is so supportive, but his eyes do kind of glaze over when I'm talking to him about some of these stats and things. Like he doesn't use social media at all. And so he doesn't really, get all that. He's so happy for me, but, I can't really get into the nitty gritty of traffic and growth and my strategies and all that with him. And so I think having, a friend that you can do that with is nice, and we can spur each other on and celebrate, our successes. And that's really good.
That's so important. I think finding that person that you, like you say, can talk to about all those things and not feel guilty about it. Like you're excited to talk with each other. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Do you have that, Marley? Do you have
Yeah,
someone?
actually, I have Brandy, who's Crawford. She's with the site Stay Snatched, and she is here in Kansas City. And we met last year, and I have thoroughly enjoyed getting together with her. And the thing I love is it's really inspired me to do things that I was dreading doing, and
Mhm.
it kind of getting together with her, talking, hearing her talk about some of the things she did. It just made me feel like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to make this change. I've been kind of sitting on the fence about for a while, so it's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I highly encourage people to find some way of interacting. I mean, of course, there are these Facebook groups or there's other groups you can be a part
Mhm.
of that can do that, but I think there's nothing like this voice or even if it's on the phone or if it's in person,
Mhm.
I think it's much better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think there's value in both. I mean, I think that being able to draw on just the whole group in a lot of the different Facebook groups, that we're in on for knowledge and input, it for sure has a lot of value. But then, yes, having those one-on-one discussions is really helpful.
Yes. I wanted to share with everybody a little bit of the response that you got from that post in our private Facebook group.
Yes.
Basically, these are some of the things that people said they were tracking as far as their own goals.
Hmm.
Expanding to different revenue streams, such as affiliate sales. So, not just having one revenue stream, but expanding to more social media numbers, getting more organized as a business, and email subscribers. I wanted to point these out because I think there's something there are things that are a little bit different than I was thinking of. Like, it's easy to talk about page views. That's kind of a common one, but getting
Hmm.
more organized as a business, what a great goal that is.
Totally.
Yes. I like to designate, you mentioned kind of batching things a little bit, and I do like to designate the first business Monday of the month as my business day and use that as a time like to gather my receipts and do things like that. I think it really does help.
That's so smart. That's usually my day where I'm really looking at stats and analytics and stuff. But that isn't the day I do my receipt. That's a really smart idea. I like that, Marley.
Well, that way I don't reach the end of the year and like frantically searching around for those things. I like having, I actually even have a notebook. It's so old school, but I like having them kind of all right there and,
Mhm.
make sure your invoices are all out and if there's some that are late, like you say, it's a great day to kind of, be on your business game. And I love that you use that day as also your stats day. That's a great idea.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so in that
Definitely.
thread, there was also somebody said this, and I loved this too. Her quote was, "You will be shocked," in all caps, "how often you are doing something that doesn't move you forward on one of your real goals." And she gave the example of reading the news. That kind of made me laugh because that's probably my go-to, I guess, excuse for not doing things. And so I like this point, what she was saying that having goals helps you realize how little time you're spending on that goal if you're observing it.
Exactly. No, I think that that's so true. And I think that um, along those same lines, I think that if you every time you open your email, I'm sure, don't you have like 10 more new things that are like
Yeah.
asking for your attention?
Yep.
And I think if you don't have goals, it can be really easy to just see all these things and wonder, okay, which of these should I be saying yes to? What should I be saying no to? Like, and that maybe saying yes to some of the wrong things.
Yes, and I was going to in fact ask you that. Do you think as a result of having these specific goals that you have said no to some things that you were doing before?
Oh, definitely. I feel like having the goals definitely helps me stay focused on my dreams and not other people's dreams.
Ah,
So, like I said, I have friends who it would be a dream come true to get invited to be on a cooking segment on TV or have their own cooking show or, even just on a local scale, like be invited to do a cooking segment on the news. And I would hate that,
me
like with a
too.
capital HATE, hate that. That is not my dream. And
Yeah.
so I think when I can remember my own goals, both my yearly goal for my business, my personal goal, my long-term goals, then I can say no to those things that are in my inbox that just don't fit, like a request for a video interview or to teach a cooking class at a local store, because those don't fit with what my goals are.
Oh, this reminds me so much. I'm on the park board of our city, and we created a master plan
Mhm.
And one of the reasons, I mean, there's many reasons to have a master plan, but one of the reasons is because oftentimes people want to gift us land or they want to donate
Mhm.
something. And it's so easy to say yes to those things. But if it's not in your master plan and it doesn't meet our goals, then it gave us permission to say no to that. And because everything that you accept has responsibilities and time associated with it. So it's if somebody wants to donate land to a parks department, why would we ever say no? But of course, that land has to be maintained and that costs money and there's expenses related to things. So I just hearing you say that made me just like go, yes, this is what we need, like a master plan. Your goals, your saying
Yes.
goals fits that
Yes, and
kind of
you've heard that saying too, that like, every yes to something is a no to something else, right?
right.
And so I think that that's, with that too, and it's like, hey, I don't want to be saying yes to whatever this new thing is in my inbox that I never ever had given any consideration to, because that's going to make me say no to something else that was one of my goals for the year, you
Ah,
know?
yes, that's brilliant. And so that way, when something does come in and it's a great fit and it
Mhm.
works toward your goals, it's a no brainer. You know to say yes to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you feel like there were some things like I mean those are kind of big things, but were there things that you found yourself doing on a day-to-day basis that you realized, like you mentioned social media last year.
Mhm.
Obviously there was a decision in your part to say, you know what, I'm not going to focus so much on social media. Have you found some other things like that that kind of said no to?
Yes, for one thing, income wise, my ad network is killing it.
Yes.
And so because of that, I was able to say no to more sponsored work.
Yes.
Especially last year, I was dealing with some of my health issues last year, and the more sponsored work I have, the more deadlines, expectations, stress that comes with all that. And so because I could see that with my ad network, I was on track to meet my goals, I was able to say no to a lot of that sponsored work and just really cut back on my stress last year. And that has continued into this year. And I I no longer read most of those. What do we call those? Blogging networks? Is that what we call those? Some of
Yes.
those,
Yes.
that come in, and I used to use those early on in my blogging. I was like, yes, I'll say yes to this $100 opportunity.
Yes.
I'm still getting started, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I actually don't need those right now. I haven't unsubscribed to all of them because you never know if things will change in the future. But right now, I don't need those. Those don't really fit in with my plan. And so I don't even read them anymore. Like I even eliminated the 2 minutes that those were taking me to read, and I just hit delete on them. And so that, is a way that can kind of help me, maintain my
Yes.
time and, protect that. And stay focused on the things that are, moving me forward.
It feels so empowering to hear you talk because, you're giving yourself permission to focus on the things that are really important to you.
Definitely, definitely. And saying no is a big part of it. A few years ago, my personal goal, not my blogging goal, my business goal, but my personal goal was the word de-stress. And I didn't even know if that was even a real word, if I made it up. But my whole theme that year was to just try to cut back on the amount of stress in my life, because that extra stress in my life just makes complicates my health issues that I already have. And so I really went through the year basically saying no to as many things I could say no to, which was a huge difference for me. I'm a total yes person. You
Uh,
need help with this? Yes. You need someone to bring cookies to that? Yes. And I would always just say yes to everything. And I had this, realization that, okay, I need to say no for a while, and I need to do this for my health and for my family. And so I think that having that year where I did that has really helped me now, even years later, to realize that that I need to say no to things in order to stay focused on what's best for my business, for my family, for me personally, and it just has really given me that freedom that just because someone personally sends me an email and asks me to do something doesn't actually mean that I have to say yes, or that opportunity is for me.
wow, that's huge. And I think I love the fact that you have a separate personal goal and that is just by creating a single word that you keep in mind because that's easy to remember.
It really is. Yep. I pick a single word. Occasionally it's a phrase, but, and then that's my theme for the year. So while my business goals are very, specific and measurable, attainable, all that, like I said, for my personal goal, I really simplify it to just be, a word. And, that I try to make all my decisions throughout that year, for how I spend my time with that theme in mind.
Well, and even, it goes back to the mindset that we're talking about. Even if that word doesn't have anything specific to it, it has a mindset value to it. So like, de-stressed, it may not mean that you're taking on less, you're still taking on your goals and working really hard, but you're just going to go about it with an attitude of not feeling stressed.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want to hear some of my other words over the
years?
Yes,
I do.
So, mine are definitely unique, obviously, to my own, situation. And so, one of the years when my body was really rough, it was survive. And it really helped for me to just, even just have that as my goal and just be like, we are just getting through this stage with my body and also with my kids. And like, there was some health issues with one of my kids. And so, it was just like, okay, this year we're just going to get through. We are just going to get through
Did
this
you
year.
sing that song a lot? I will survive.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Last year was overcome. And so I had some challenges that I was just really trying to overcome and with health and parenting and those helped guide some of my decisions, things like, signing up to go to family counseling, was just part of overcoming. And so, just making some decisions in light of that word. And for this year, it's be an encourager. And so I want to learn how to better encourage my kids instead of criticize them. The practical is like reviewing my notes from counseling and reading things like love languages for kids and working on words of encouragement for my husband, things like that. And encourage the people that God puts in my path each day. I've always been a big believer that there's a reason for every conversation that we have with someone each day. There's some reason for it, even we might not be able to see it, but there's some reason that our paths have crossed and we have a conversation each day. But I feel like sometimes I'm so wrapped up in my own thoughts or my own to-dos or my own struggles that I miss why God has crossed my path with that person at that moment. And so this year, I'm just with this theme in mind, I'm really working to make sure that those interactions involve me encouraging in some way, whether it's through words or through a smile or just through being a listening ear. Maybe it's hearing about a need that I can then take action on later, but not just ignoring those conversations and those interactions with people and just looking for a way to encourage people.
Well, I definitely think you're being an encourager today because you're going to be encouraging so many people who are listening to this podcast.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. And I've been trying to not let my perfectionism get in the way of encouraging. I feel like when I was really thinking through this theme, that I could see instances where I've been aware of a need that someone has, and my perfectionism gets in the way. So like an example would be like, knowing that a friend is moving, and me thinking, you know what, I should swing by with some muffins and a gallon of milk and, a box of cereal, just like something like that. But then my perfectionism says, these need to be homemade muffins, right? And so, and then I don't have time to make homemade muffins today. And so I end up just not doing it. And so I've been trying to get past that perfectionism stumbling block and be like, Michelle, there's a reason that that's on your mind to bring them that stuff. You need to go do that, but it doesn't have to be homemade muffins. It's okay. Nobody is going to die if you stop at the grocery store and buy muffins, It's
like we have this, like you say, it's a form of perfectionism where it's like, it has to be perfect.
Yes. And I think that stops me from doing things a lot. And I've been really trying to do things. In fact, one of my friends made a sign for me for my office that I have that I can see right now while I'm talking to you. And it says, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And I look at that every day. And that is just what I'm so much trying to change my mindset to be.
It's great words of wisdom to have. And it sounds to me like you're also trying to be involved with self-encouraging. So you're encouraging yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I'm actually trying to learn more about my type. Have you looked into Enneagrams at all?
I
Have you read
have.
that?
I was a big fan of Myers-Briggs, and so I have
Okay.
done some Enneagram, but I don't remember what my
Okay.
number was. What is yours?
I'm just getting started reading about them, but it's pretty obvious that I'm type one. I'm the perfectionist type, and so that's one of my personal things I'm trying to do this year is try to learn more about those and how to be a healthy one. And then also, I'd like to get some insight into what my kids are, so that I can figure out how to better encourage them.
Yes, I do think everybody has a different style, and it's so important. Like my husband, for example, is just he's a real thinker, and I'm a real
Yeah.
doer. So
Hmm.
sometimes we clash in that because I'm like, let's just do it. And he's like, let's just think about it. So
Yeah. Yep.
it's like it's nice to be able to I can take a deep breath and I can just go, okay, he's gonna think this through, and we'll reconnect here in a minute, and that always
Hmm.
works.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. So I love organization tips, and I'm just curious if you can share just, a couple of minutes about how you spend organizing yourself as a food blogger.
Yeah, sure. So spreadsheets is huge.
Yeah.
I actually use Google Docs for all of mine now. That way I can access them on my computer or my phone. And if I need to share them with someone, it's easy to share them that way. So I have a lot of spreadsheets that I use. And then I use Google Calendar for my family. And so, like, everyone in our family uses it. And so, that has helped, personally speaking, that has helped our family a lot because there's never that issue when people, at dinner time of like, who needs to be where, what's going on tonight,
Yes.
and someone being like, what? I didn't know we had that tonight. Now everything's on everybody's calendar. And so, so I'm definitely big on that. And then I actually have a really huge wall calendar for my business, and I only mark business trips and sponsored work on it. And it really helps me to be able to glance at that. I know for me personally that there can't be more than 3 things on a month. And so that's like what I've found is
Ah,
absolutely my threshold, stress wise.
yeah.
And so I can, if I look at it and there's more than 3 things, then it's absolutely, I say no to any other opportunities that come that month. And so that has really helped me as well, kind of having that right here in my office that I can see at a glance.
Oh, I love that. And what about for editorial planning? How you have your
I
content
do
scheduled
none.
out for a while? You don't? Is that what you said?
I don't do any editorial planning. I don't have a schedule for like posting. I've never had a posting schedule. And part of this comes from that whole goal of de-stress. And
Mm,
so it was like, I don't have blog followers that are like waiting on my every post. I don't. And so I don't owe it to them. I don't owe it to anybody, to like post a certain amount of time. And so, so I just post when it works for me. And so sometimes there's a couple weeks gap, and sometimes I'll have a rare week where I get up 3 posts. And yeah, I just basically post when things are ready. I have documents full of recipe ideas,
yes.
for sure. And I have a backlog of, photos to edit and, posts to get up. But no, I don't do an editorial calendar at all.
Oh,
And
that's
and that's just, yeah, I guess
yeah.
part of my strategy is just to be like, I felt like that just for me just added too much stress
Right.
and would make me, when my body would be acting up, if I have a week where I'm down with migraines, too many migraines that week, then it would just get me down, like feeling like, oh, I'm so far behind, and just kind of get me lose my umph and lose my enthusiasm for stuff. And so this way, my only deadline a month is getting up my one client's sponsored work, and everything else I can just do as it fits for me.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about your year going forward. What are some things that you're going to be looking forward to as goals for this year?
So for this year, my goals, like I said, I have an income goal. And then wrapped up in that was my specific goals for what I wanted to do with that income. I have a blog traffic goal where I am increasing from last year's traffic, trying to hit a certain number of page views per month. And it's not the same for the whole month. Like, I've got 2 months where I'm trying to hit 400,000 page views, 2 months at 300,000 page views, that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And again, I looked at all my stats to try to help figure out some of those numbers and whatnot. And And then I have goals for what I'm trying to grow my Instagram and my Facebook and my Pinterest as well. And then kind of my stretch, like this is going to stretch me, is I'm trying to publish my first ebook this year, e-cookbook. And I've never done anything like that at all. But I just felt like, you know what, it's time. Like I'm not doing this because I feel like I can't do it perfect. I'm not smart enough to do it, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I need to make that an actual goal so that I just do it. And I need to overcome some of those like stumbling blocks,
Yes.
to get it done. So that was like my real challenging one for this year. And so I'm hoping to make that happen. I have the ideas, I've got the recipe ideas. And so now it's just a matter of getting all those recipes developed and photographed, and then asking around, getting tips from people about how best to go about, putting it out there. And I don't really have like a sales goal or whatever associated with it. It really is meant to be a challenge and a learning experience for me, something I can learn from doing. And then, maybe I do it and I am like, okay, I hated that entire process. Then I'll know that I don't want to do it again. Right. But maybe I'll love it. And maybe it'll make me want to do a regular cookbook later, or to do more ebooks later. Who knows? But I figure I won't know until I do it. And so just challenge myself to do that for this year.
I love that. In fact, I have an episode coming up of somebody who designed and created and published their own e-cookbook. So,
ooh, I can't wait.
Yes.
That'll be perfect for me then.
Exactly. Okay. I have some fun questions I love to ask at the end of the interview. Are you game?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. So tell me about a favorite food.
So I just love chocolate desserts, like so much, cake and brownies and cookies. Like I can't even pick a favorite, but as long as it's a chocolatey dessert, I make something chocolatey pretty much every week. I bake something, that is, I have kind of my go-to recipes that I make all the time.
Yeah, you make me feel good because we do that too.
Yeah. I remember an interview. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I could just make like a blueberry tart and my husband would put chocolate syrup on it. So
yes. I heard once a food blogger saying like she never makes anything twice. And I was like, wow, you go girl. But for me, when it comes to like my Friday night, I usually do Friday night baking, kind of like a celebrate end of the week. I just want to go to one of my go-to recipes, that's like an old favorite, So I'll frequently make brownies or chocolate chip cookies or chocolate cake, something like that on a Friday night. That's just for our family, not for blogging or any purpose.
Yes, me too. In fact, I just have this very super simple chocolate cake that I have it by memory. I don't even have to look up the recipe anymore. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So good.
What's your favorite app on your phone?
I know it's such a geeky answer, but Google Keep is definitely mine. I use it. It's so handy. I use it personally. I use it for I have a list in there for each grocery store that I shop at. And so I can uncheck and check things from one visit to another, and it's always there. And so I like that feature. And then I can make notes in there anytime I want. I have a huge document in there for recipe ideas. So when I get inspiration in the shower, I can hop out and add it to the list right there. Or if I'm at the grocery store and I see something in the bakery section that's an idea I've never thought of, I can add it. So yeah, I use Google Keep all day long.
Do you have an Android?
No, actually, I have an iPhone.
Oh, okay. Because it seems like it sounds a little bit like reminders or notes on the iPhone, but it must have different characteristics to it then.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just another.
Yeah,
I'm a big Google user. I like all the different Google app things. But yeah, I started using it years ago, and I do. I like it a lot.
Oh, it sounds very cool. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say you watch your TV show every night. I'm just curious, what's your favorite TV show, or if you have a favorite book, I'm fine with hearing that too.
My husband and I, we have what we call couch time every night. And that's kind of our time to just connect. And sometimes we sit and chat. Sometimes we chat and then turn on the TV for a tiny bit. And so we usually will watch House Hunters together. Unless it's like football or baseball season, then we watch those. And then my favorite TV show otherwise is actually Live PD. So I'm a huge Live PD fan.
I love HGTV, and I think that's where House Hunters is right?
Yep, it is. Yeah. So yeah, we just DVR, all the episodes, and then we can just watch them when it's convenient for us.
Yes.
So,
I
yeah.
don't even know what is live TV. Is that like movies?
No, it's live PD. So it's
Oh,
like the live police department
oh,
show. Have you
I've
heard
never
of
even
that?
heard of that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like a dweeb here. Okay, live PD. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. I really like it. But
Do
anyways,
they
yeah.
always
And
have
then
exciting things going on, or are they like in a
they
donut shop?
do. No, no. No, it's really interesting. It's kind of, did you ever watch Cops,
Oh, no, I
years
never watched
ago?
it, but I heard about it. I kind of have to.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's kind of like that, except that it's actually on live. So it's just a reality, show. But yeah, it's interesting. It's entertaining.
Yes.
My kids actually like watching it with us too, and I
Aw,
feel like it's actually good. The kids kind of can see, the
yes.
people not making good choices, so it can lead to some good conversations. And
Yeah.
then book wise, like I said, I just got these 2 books on Enneagrams. I'm reading The Road Back to You, which is an Enneagram journey to self-discovery. And then the one I'm going to read after that is called The Path Between Us, Healthy Relationships. And so that takes the Enneagram model and applies it to relationships. And that's what I'm kind of excited about with, looking at that with my kids. I find it hard to connect with teenage boys. And that's what God's given me. And so just trying to find ways to help understand them and help to encourage them, because as a perfectionist, I can be quick with the criticism. And, obviously I'm always trying to fight that and try to work on that. But I want to know how best to encourage my boys. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, so
I
those are
love
my
that.
goals with my book reading this year.
Yes. So, Michelle, how can people find you online?
So at Instagram, I'm at My Gluten Free Kitchen, and Twitter, I'm at My G Free Kitchen. And then if you just Google My Gluten Free Kitchen, then my blog should come up. So
That's wonderful. Michelle, thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. I had a wonderful time.
thank you, Marley. I really appreciate you inviting me. And I hope that people find some benefit in some of the conversation we had on goals.
Thanks to Michelle Palin for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. There are some exciting things coming this season of the Chopped Podcast. I mean, really exciting. So be sure to sign up today for the Chopped Academy newsletter by going to chopped.academy and scrolling to the bottom of the page and hitting subscribe. Thanks to everyone for your support of the Chopped Podcast. Your reviews on iTunes and Stitcher make such a big difference. It takes only a few seconds of your time, and yet it really has a big impact. We also appreciate your reviews on social media as well. Please keep spreading the word. You inspire me, and I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.